Hi, my name is Dave Schwartz. I am a full-time jump pilot, and our friends over at Performance Designs have asked me to take just a couple minutes to talk to you about airspeed and ground speed. So airspeed is how fast the aircraft is moving through the air. It's measured by a tube and a couple of small holes on the outside of the aircraft, and that information is then depicted inside the aircraft on the instrument panel. You can think of airspeed as the wind that you feel pushing back against your body as you're climbing out on jump run. Ground speed, on the other hand, is how fast the aircraft is moving through physical space. Now, these days it's almost always measured using GPS, and you can think of ground speed like the speedometer in your car, because the information that it's giving us is how fast are we actually moving across the ground. So you might be asking yourself, well, why would these two numbers ever be any different? The answer is the wind. If you can imagine the wind blowing from the left side of your video screen across to the right side, an aircraft that's flying into that wind is going to have a relatively lower ground speed. And an aircraft that's flying with that wind is going to have a relatively higher ground speed. So to demonstrate this, let's go for a quick flight in the Twin Otter here. All right, so here we are flying into the wind on a westbound jump run, and we're going to watch the GPS on the iPad screen, as well as the airspeed indicator on the instrument panel. Now you can see that our indicated airspeed is staying pretty stable at right around 80 knots. And if you take a look at the ground speed on the GPS, you can see it's also holding pretty steady at just over 70 knots. Now the reason both those numbers are stable is because right now the airplane is in straight and level flight. But watch what happens as we start turning at the end of jump run here. Our indicated airspeed is still 80 knots, but our ground speed is starting to increase pretty dramatically. In fact, you'll see that as we get all the way around this 180-degree turn, our ground speed will have actually doubled from just over 70 knots when we were westbound to more than 140 knots now that we are eastbound. So the takeaway here is that regardless of what airspeed we're flying, the ground speed can change significantly based on the direction of flight relative to the direction of the wind. So why do we care about ground speed anyway? Well, if you're in one of the later groups in the aircraft, it might be nice to know if it's a very high ground speed day, because you're probably more likely to have a fairly deep spot on a day like that. But the real reason that we care about ground speed is because we need that to calculate exit separation. Now, exit separation is a really important topic, and it probably deserves its whole own video. We're not going to go into it in great detail here, but the general idea is that we need to leave enough space between groups so that at deployment time, everybody has plenty of clear airspace around them and we don't have to worry about any collisions. Well, the only way that we can know how much time to leave between groups is by knowing how fast we're moving, and that's ground speed. Well, I hope this video has given you a little bit better understanding of airspeed and ground speed, and how the direction of flight relative to the direction of wind can affect the relationship between the two. I hope the rest of your day is really good, and I look forward to seeing you in the back of the airplane here real soon.